Turning Traffic into Gold, Volume 2, Ingenious Ways to Turn Prospects into Customers. Chapter 1, Prime the Buyer's Greed Glands. Greed is a human trait, and maybe we'd like to ignore it because it's not very pretty, but it is a fact of life. People do get greedy, and when they do, they tend to lose all sense of reason. That's actually a pretty good time to use this human weakness to help you trigger the impulse to buy your products. In sales, greed isn't just about charging people the most money you can get out of them, although that is definitely one aspect that marketers use. It's also about providing the trigger so that your buyer believes that they are getting a steal, either because of a price differential or the cost versus benefits preview. It's a great way not to just make one sale, but to close on a variety of items. Closeout and bargain hunting are a form of greed, even though it's viewed as frugality. It all depends on if the buyer is buying bargains, because that's what they practically need in their lives, or whether the impulse to buy is spurred more by overactive greed glands that can't turn down anything resembling a steal of a deal. So, placing these types of deals on your website can help you start to develop a sales strategy that attracts a wide range of buyers. The strategy. It may surprise you to know that the disposable income level of your sales prospects actually define what a good deal is, not the actual value of the product or service you are offering. That's because greed is relative to your economic prosperity. Even though high-income wage earners are not immune to greed, it just takes a slightly different form. For instance, when you're trying to sell an item that might be worth $60 to a very well-heeled client, you might want to up the price to $100 and highlight the features and quality of the product and see if they bite. The reason for this isn't just your own greed, but also the understanding that price to value is relative based on your disposable income. For someone making over $100,000 a year, an extra $40 is not seen as a lot of money, and they may be used to paying higher prices due to the markets they shop. They might not even question the price. However, they will assuredly question the quality and want to make sure that the purchase reflects their station in life. The greed here is more about status than money. On the other hand, if you were to do the same with a person making less than $25,000 a year, that $100 set point may be enough for them to do some comparison shopping, and they'll pretty soon find out that they can buy the same item from your competitor for $40 less. You not only lose the sale, but you lose future sales too from that customer. So using greed to price your products is tricky. You have to understand your target demographic and specifically the income level of most of your customers. Then you can price accordingly. If you are not sure of the income level, you can always start using this strategy by offering a more expensive option first and then presenting a much less expensive option second. The difference in prices and a clear explanation of the differences in features can be enough to make the greed glands in any demographic start to salivate. It appeals to the high-income earners because it triggers their status greed in elevating the higher-priced item as the must-have product, not just because of additional features, but precisely because it is more expensive. It triggers the lower-end crowd because the less expensive option will be seen to be a minor sacrifice in features for a large reduction in cost. The psychology. Where does greed come from? It's said it is one of the original 7 deadly sins, but it's probably more a survival instinct. When human beings lived at the mercy of the elements and environment, there were wide disparities between times of prosperity and harsh times when drought, famine, or disease might invade the security of the home. So the instinct to hoard things and try to get a bigger share than someone else was basically an innate fear of survival because the future was so uncertain. That's why even people who are very well off are not immune to greed. It is inbred in our species and helped us, as a species, to survive very bad times, albeit at the expense of others at times. But the instinct to try and get a very good deal, even one you don't need immediately, is something that appeals to everyone, even if the tactic to implement it is different according to your demographic. In marketing, the skillful manipulation of price is what triggers this dynamic. Value is something that the buyer determines in a capitalistic system, so that it can fluctuate from person to person. So, the way to engage a perception that your product is a steal is by manipulating the price in relation to the perceived value. Let's be clear, the price itself is viewed as a fixed commodity to the buyer. It is the value that is fluctuating from person to person. If the price is low when compared to the perceived value, even if the price is actually quantitatively high, then it is considered a steal by that potential buyer, and the greed glands will kick into high gear. So you can either raise or lower the price to stimulate greed. It's that simple. That's the tool you have at your disposal. However, always do it in comparison to your understanding of the customer's perceived value of the product. The implementation. You may be scratching your head a bit confused about raising a price to stimulate greed. There is a strategy that you can use which shifts the perceived value in the buyer's mind while you do it. It is quite a bit more subtle than lowering a price to stimulate greed, but it can be done, especially for luxury or high-priced markets. Remember that as long as the price is low in comparison to the perceived value, even if it is quantitatively a high dollar value, it's still considered a steal. Here is how you might try to implement the greed factor in a high-priced market. Say you're selling collectible fine china. You have several sets that are obviously worth hundreds of dollars, and you're interested in getting a stampede of buyers to your door to generate interest in the product. So you build a marketing campaign and you talk about how the value of the price of this fine china has increased over time substantially and how rare it is becoming. Now you're attracting the demographics of luxury buyers who are interested in not only quality goods but also have a nose for great deals too. So you say that in another 5 years their investment in the fine china may be worth twice as much again. Be careful with the wording and be sure that they understand that past performance of an investment is no guarantee of future returns. So here we are very skillfully changing the perception of this product from china to collectibles and an investment, not a household purchase. And we've even shown how the value might potentially increase after the purchase. So are we going to sell it for the actual value of the product? No way. We are selling an appreciating asset, not a household item. So now the value of the product has increased tremendously in the buyer's mind, and we can command a higher figure than the actual present-day value. But wait, that's just the start of our greed-enhancing program. Now you say that while it's true that the china is a great investment and of quality and high value, you can offer the public a great deal by offering it at a discount because you are either going out of business, having an end-of-year sale, celebrating your business anniversary, or whatever. Make up an excuse and make it somewhat believable. Then cut the price of the set from the higher price to a lower one, but one still substantially higher than what the product's present-day value is worth. Another way to do this is not to cut the value of one set, but offer a discount on volume buying. This would work perfectly if you are selling place settings and don't know whether they want 4, 8, or 12 place settings. However, they may think it's too expensive to buy 12 until you offer them a discount for buying 8 or more. You trigger the greed, and they will start to justify the reasons why having extra sets on hand are a good idea. Finally, lowering the price of items is always a surefire way to attract greedy customers by the boatload. And you will soon discover that the amount of attention and enthusiasm you get for your sales is completely proportional to the difference in price drops. The lower the price, the more you sell, in other words. The only time when you can't make those sales is when the product is obviously junk and no one wants to buy it, But for the most part, if you continue to persuade your customers of the innate value of the product and lower the price, you can spur them into action to close the sale. The timing. This is a strategy that can be used even before a customer shows up to your website. Yes, that's right. You don't have to wait for them to show interest in your products. You don't have to wait for them to sign up to a mailing list. You can do it as a mass advertising tool to bring customers in who will be attracted by your specials. This is an excellent tool for people in direct mail and retail sales. You know that when you put out a special in one of those newspaper inserts or value pack envelopes, that you are practically guaranteed new customers as long as the offer is enticing enough to convince them to drop by. Well, on the internet, you don't even have to convince them to gas up their cars and make the trip. You can simply put your link out there and invite them to click on it. You'll want to include your offer in various third-party forums and comment on indiscreetly wherever you can. Be careful not to spam people, but you do want to advertise it on other places beside your own website. In order to get the widest exposure, you can offer to give people in the same niche as you the deal for free if they review it and write about the value. While that may be a sweet enough deal for some, others will want to get a commission off each product they promote and sell. Then you can also set up an affiliate program for that special so that they are not only able to promote a great deal to their visitors, but they make money off the deal too. That's the true meaning of greed. When you butter the palms of everyone involved in the deal and make it a win-win-win for everyone. These types of offers are best as either introductory offers or closeout sales or end-of-the-season sales. There should be a reason why you are able to offer these offers so that people don't become habituated to receiving only sharp discounts from you and get offended when you put up a product at a regular price. And don't forget the luxury market too, when you want to implement this strategy. But instead of money, opt to hype the perceived value so that a lowering of the price still keeps the initial price high. Chapter 2. Impact their emotions. If you think buying is not an emotional experience, you are mistaken. Every word in sales copy is amplified when it triggers an emotional response and can be the difference between copy that excites the imagination of the potential buyer and that which deadens it. When you engage the buyer's imagination, they can even begin to imagine what it's like to own the product you're selling, and it stirs up the flames of desire for possessing it. It is true that if you want to sell by impacting the emotions of your potential buyer. Even though you know that the final decision may be justified through logic, the initial way to get by the mind that will make up all sorts of objections to the sale is to appeal to the emotions. The strategy. When you're advertising your products or services, you will want to pay close attention to the words you choose. Words are powerful tools on the internet that you can use to frame the way a person perceives not only the value of your product, but also the experience of possible ownership. Words tell stories that inform your readers about how this product or service solved a problem for some other buyer. Stories can pull a buyer into identifying with the other buyers and help them to visualize their own problems being solved, their lives getting easier or better for having made the purchase. You will want to pick words that not only tell a vivid story, however. You will also want to use words that influence the buyer's feelings and gives them favorable impressions. It's really not that hard to do. People have a variety of automatic emotional responses to different words. All you have to do is find out which words create the best results and implement them in your sales copy. You want to create a sales environment that puts people into an emotional mindset. Why? The simple reason is to bypass the logical mind long enough to make the sale. Sure, the final decision to buy will need to be justified with solid benefits, but that's not typically the reason a person ends up making the decision to buy. They may not even be aware that many of their buying decisions are based on how they feel about a product rather than what they think about it. People actually feel thrills when they buy, and that thrill acts as a beacon to get them to buy again. Yet when they are asked why they buy a particular product, they don't talk about how they feel. That's rather personal. Instead, they list the benefits. That's because when people are asked to justify a purchase, the mind automatically kicks in, even if they made the decision based solely on how they felt at the time of purchase. The psychology. The brain has two halves, and one deals with logic, and the other is more intuitive and feeling. The two halves generally don't communicate at the same time in most people. If you have very strong emotions, your reason is usually blocked from functioning at its highest potential, and vice versa. This can be really useful information in your marketing efforts, because if you can get someone to get emotional about your products, you can sell without even having to really work too hard at it. Not only that, but once an impression is made on the emotional mind, it tends to have a longer memory than the logical mind. It is even well known that feelings can be associated to various stimuli that bring back powerful memories, complete with the emotions, sometimes just by smelling something that reminds you of your childhood. Words aren't just letters strung together that have a logical meaning. They also have a personal meaning. If you can tap into that emotional intelligence and bypass the logical critic most people have standing ready to say no, you will find that you can sell things much faster and retain customers with a higher sense of satisfaction after the sale. You don't just have to focus on invoking pleasant emotions, because negative emotions can also be powerful motivators to close a sale. Think of people who are in the market to buy GPS systems for their cars. Why would they want to buy that? On an emotional basis, they may be trying to avoid getting lost. So the feeling you want to invoke is precisely that confused and lost feeling that they dread, and then offer the GPS system as a solution to never having to feel that way again. The implementation. The way to implement this strategy is to start making a list of alternate emotion-packed words that influence your potential buyer in subtle but powerful ways. Review your copy for opportunities where you can reach out and literally touch the buyer and comfort or assure them that they are making the right decision to buy. One word that is very powerful and should be used more in copy is the word invest instead of buy. When you buy something, it almost has the connotation of being taken for a ride. For instance, when you buy into something, it means you're being convinced, maybe even despite your feeling it may not be such a good idea. However, the word invest has the opposite feeling. It gives you a feeling of security and reaping returns, even if you don't have a logical explanation for why that is so. It's just a good investment. People in the real estate industry are masters at this game. When a house is small, they call it cozy. When the walls are painted in odd colors, they call it custom paint. If it is falling apart at the seams, they call it a handyman special. These are euphemisms that don't completely hide the meaning, but reframe it to show off the positive aspects of it. They plug into the emotional impact of the words. Cozy gives you the idea of warmth and being hugged by your mother. Custom paint is a term that can mean anything from a personalized mural complete with the kids' handprints to a mural vista of the French Riviera by a local artist. It's up to the person reading the ad to fill in the blanks, and normally they will fill them in with whatever appeals to them. Handyman Special gives you an idea that it's a property that won't last long being special and that it only needs a few little fixes here and there. So paying attention to the choice of words is important to implement this strategy. That can be done by pure trial and error or by looking up sales books to find out which words carry a positive impact. There are many such words that you see in television ads, like the words new, improved, easy, and more. Or you can just start to switch words here and there in your copy and see what impact it makes on your bottom line. The second way to implement this strategy is to bring out your inner drama queen. You want to be able to exude emotion and have that pour all over your sales copy. Try to write up an offer that really engages someone on an emotional level. Use it in your sales presentations by trying to bring in an emotional content that people can quickly identify with, and then use it to manipulate people into a frame of mind that makes them buy. Especially, you want to focus on framing the benefits in an emotional framework. This will help your buyer begin to imagine and experience your product more in their feelings. Try to describe the product in an emotional language that triggers people into associations that are positive for them. This is the same idea that real estate people use when they advise you to bake cookies or simmer cinnamon sticks in your house before you show it. The scents pull in memories of mom baking in the kitchen and make the sale for you through subconscious emotional associations. Well, you can do the same with words by painting the picture of an emotional trigger for them to be able to visualize it better in their mind. Obviously, depending on your demographics, the emotional triggers for one group may be different from another. It's your job to figure out which emotional triggers will appeal to the people you are marketing. If you're marketing to harried working moms, then triggering the image of a crying baby and the phone ringing while dinner burns on the stove would sell anything that makes this scenario go away. It might be easy to make microwave meals. It can be an answering machine that shows you who's calling and whether it's important. It's not always going to be obvious how to associate the emotion to your product, but it should be relevant to your demographic. If you were to use the same imagery to try to sell microwave meals for single professionals, they would not relate to it, even if the microwave meal might appeal to them if it had been framed differently. Do you see how the emotion is triggered specifically by the advertising and the target audience? For some, the emotional trigger will strike them right where they live, and for others, it simply leaves them cold. You have to know who you are marketing to understand how to trigger the emotions that you want to associate with your advertising copy. Some emotions are universal because they relate to our childhood. We all equate home with feelings of security, which is good for the real estate market. We all want to feel included and accepted by our family and friends. We all want to feel we are achieving or accomplishing something we can feel proud of. These types of emotions can also be used to mine a larger audience when you are unsure of your demographics. But the more targeted your emotional marketing campaign, the greater the possibility that it will be a stronger influence to trigger buying behavior. The timing. The time to use this strategy is when you are first presenting the product to the public or your website visitor. Don't wait to start to bring some familiarity to the product that the person can begin to identify with it as the solution to their problems. Try to engage all the senses so that they can begin to tie into the sensual aspect of the product. This will lead to the emotional part of the brain and bring forth associated positive memories. Once that first impression is made in the emotional part of the brain, it will be very hard to shake later on. That's part of the reason that many expert salespeople will actually take a sample with them to a presentation, something their potential buyer can touch and experience. It appeals to the emotional side of all human beings and gets them to start imagining what it would be like to own the regular product all to themselves. Think of how car manufacturers present their advertising for cars. They typically show a convertible car winding down a stunning coastal highway, sea breeze flying through the driver's hair as the sun beats down on dazzling water and sand. You can practically smell the salt air and taste the spray of seawater in your mouth, and that's the point. They evoke the emotional response by getting you to imagine buying the car. You then become that person with the perfect life that has the wind whipping through your hair in a breezy, freeing, expensive experience while everyone else is stuck in a cubicle at work. It's really quite amusing when we analyze how easily our emotions are manipulated, but that's really the case. There are certain desires that most human beings will do anything to experience: love, freedom, joy, and success. Tie those emotions to your product, and you've got a winner. Chapter 3. Go beyond the 100% satisfaction guarantee. Everyone remembers the cheesy 100% satisfaction guarantee that old television infomercials would haul out to get people to believe in their products. Well, consumers are much more savvy now, and most people understand this to be more of a trial guarantee that after a certain period expires. In other words, the 100% satisfaction guarantee was usually limited to a few weeks or less, and after that you were stuck with the product. So in all fairness, it was more like a free trial than a 100% satisfaction guarantee. After all, if you're not satisfied and the period for returns has ended, aren't you then still a dissatisfied customer? So in this chapter, we're going to tell you how to put in place something that goes beyond the 100% satisfaction guarantee, even though it may seem impossible. Well, it isn't. It is your conviction that the products you offer are of such worth that you can offer a guarantee that goes beyond everyone's expectations and still make money on the product. And when you have that sort of conviction about the products you sell, the customer begins to believe it too. The strategy. The strategy on the surface seems a bit crazy for a business person to implement. What you will suggest to your customers is that if a certain condition is met, that you will refund their money or make amends beyond what is expected of you. That means that if you sell a product and it breaks, you promise to refund the money or replace it, even if it's 1 or 2 years down the line. But it doesn't have to be about things breaking. It can also be a usage condition. Say you buy a subscription to use a particular service and then find you don't use it enough to pay for the membership costs. In this strategy, the way to go beyond the 100% satisfaction guarantee is to offer to refund all the money for the subscription if you don't use the products and services offered by the membership at all within the year. Of course, you would have to have a way of figuring that out. In a discount club, you have membership costs that give you access to discounts on other products. The idea is that the amount of money you save will easily exceed the membership cost to sign up, and you eventually make back your membership fee. But what if you didn't do that? Would most companies offer you the membership fee back if you found that the use of the club wasn't worth it? Well, if your membership club did this, it would set itself above the rest by offering to ensure that whether a member uses the membership they bought or not, they will end up satisfied with the purchase because you will make sure to go beyond the typical business guarantee. Now add a little perk at the end, like a free gift or even a coupon for monies off popular items for having just tried the membership, even if it didn't end up saving you money, and people will flock to sign up. The psychology. There are lots of people who offer guarantees, but they are only worth the person issuing them. Many times there are clauses in the guarantee that limit the actual worth, such as a specific limited time period or meeting a specific condition that is unlikely to happen. For instance, most tires these days are sold with 6-year or 60,000-mile warranties. That's a guarantee that should your tire fail before then, it will be replaced for free, right? Wrong. If you look at the fine print, it says that they will replace your tires if the problem is a defect in the workmanship, not for any unforeseen event that might cause your tire failure. Your tires can hit a nail in the road, a far more likely event, and you will have to still pay to replace the tire. And should your tire fail out of poor workmanship, it's still up to you to prove that that's the case, instead of it being because someone slashed your tires or some other environmental danger hit it. It's just not very likely you'll ever use a warranty these days for tires on a manufacturer defect because most tires are made pretty well these days, no matter what they cost. However, tires are sold based on these guarantees as if the extra money you pay for a really good tire with an excellent warranty is going to give you additional customer satisfaction and security. It really isn't. It's the 100% money-back guarantee that really isn't about satisfaction as much as it is about clever marketing, and people realize that. However, when people are willing to put their money where their mouth is and put it in writing, that is a very impressive act that creates instant credibility. That means that you will replace or make good on any product, regardless of the reason, no matter what happened or how long it took to occur. Isn't that positively crazy these days? Maybe so, but it also means that you believe above 100% in your company and its ability to meet the customer's needs. You are betting that your product is so good that people won't need to return it, and that's what you're saying with the beyond 100% satisfaction guarantee. The person viewing the ad thinks that you are either crazy to make such a good offer, or your product is really all you say it is. Otherwise, how could you afford to make this type of guarantee? It raises the perceived value of your product or service and instills confidence in the purchase decision. People know that when they see that over 100% satisfaction guarantee, that the likelihood of being taken is very small, and that triggers their confidence in making the purchase. Because you believed in your products, they fell in line and believed in them too. It removes any remaining doubts or resistance to buying the product that a customer might hold in their minds. The implementation. Implementing this strategy is very easy. It just takes guts. After all, you are basically saying you are willing to show customers that you mean business and that your words can be trusted. If you issue a claim that goes beyond the 100% satisfaction guarantee, you had better be able to back it up with action. If you issue it and then go back on your word, you will have a publicity nightmare on your hands, and the backlash will be tremendous. So whatever you promise, be sure you can deliver it and then stick to your word. This strategy shouldn't be implemented as a standalone strategy. It should always be used as an additional boost to get the customers over the sales finish line. It might be well used for products where there might be some doubts lingering in the minds of the buyers, either because of the price or the novelty. Maybe you're selling a new technology that is designed to do something really novel, but people don't know how helpful it's really going to be. They may read the benefits and even be considering it, but the product still needs an additional push to make the customer decide to shell out big bucks to try it. Then you would trot out the beyond 100% satisfaction guarantee, and now those people on the fence will rush to buy. If you think that you'll end up losing too much money refunding purchases or replacing products, you are not realizing that most buyers have short memories. Maybe they buy that high-tech air cleaning and filtering system for your store only because they're told if it ever breaks, they can return it for a free replacement. But odds are, when it does break, they won't even remember what store they bought it from, much less that you offered them that guarantee. If they do remember, they might think they need the box or the receipt in order to take advantage of the guarantee, and that might or might not be the case. And then, after that, they have to motivate themselves to get back to your store and to try to take you up on that beyond 100% guarantee with the product in hand. Most people will simply go out and buy something to replace the broken product and not even think about your offer again. It's a sad statement on the American consumer mind, but most people are not as frugal or careful with their purchases to document the guarantees and keep track of them. It may be a real factor when they're trying to make the decision to buy, but after that it's mostly forgotten unless that guarantee is such a classic aspect of your marketing that you make it over and over again to multiply customers. Then you will find that people begin to associate that product or your company with that guarantee, and they will take you up on it more, but still not at a high rate. Let's be clear. You aren't just going to offer a good guarantee. You are offering an unbelievable guarantee. It's so good, people will think you're nuts for offering it. They may just buy the product to try and prove you're wrong. If you're selling subscriptions to a discount club, they might be so intrigued by your offer and knowing they have nothing to lose, and maybe even something to gain, that they will put their money down and see if you're right. The unbelievable part should come when you not only offer to keep them from losing money on the deal, but also add some incentive to sweeten the deal should the product not meet their expectations. So for a subscription to a discount club, you offer to give them a free gift at the end of the year, and their money back just for trying the membership, if they find they don't make up all the money in discounts throughout the year that they've paid in the membership fee. What this tells people is that you believe that everyone will save money using your discount club because you're just that fantastic. You're so convinced that that's the case, you're even willing to pay people to try your club out and offer them a free gift should that not occur as you expect. To figure out which offers need this additional strategy, you should look at your sales numbers. Are some offers languishing while others are going gangbusters? Don't fix what ain't broken. Instead, opt for the slow movers to try this strategy as an additional incentive to move those other offers into better performance. This is definitely a trial and error business when deciding which offers need it and which don't. If you find that after implementing the Beyond 100% Satisfaction Guarantee, your sales jump 200%, then you know you've got it in the right place. That's the power this strategy has when you use it with offers that may need just an extra boost to get them to go from underperformers to star sellers. The timing. Since this is not a standalone strategy, you want to choose other strategies to pull out first. Then, after you've made the case for your product through selling the benefits, and you notice that you still have the customer teetering on the seat of their chairs, biting their nails over the decision, then try the Beyond 100% Satisfaction Guarantee at the very end of your copy. That's right. We want it at the very end of all the selling copy. You may think that's the worst place for it, but it's really the only place for it. That's because if a person has gotten that far down the sales page and still hasn't made up their mind, then you need to add something to push them over the edge. If you did it earlier, you would not have a chance to implement the other strategies that can help you make the sale instantly. This one works best when there is still some doubt left in the mind of the potential buyer that needs to be removed, and therefore it goes last. Chapter 4. Walk the Logic Labyrinth. While an emotional trigger will help to stimulate buying behavior, when it comes time to justify the purchase, buyers often seek out logic. No one likes to feel that they've been taken on a deal, and so the end result that even if the emotions have carried them away, they will always give a logical reason why they eventually bought the product. That's because people don't admit that it was an emotional response that instigated the buy. They'd rather admit there was a valid reason for the purchase. Knowing this, that a logical reason may be necessary for some to close a deal, then you want to provide that logical reason just as you would attempt to resolve an objection before it is raised. It doesn't mean that the reason has to really make any sense. It just has to be enough to justify the purchase. It has to answer the question, why should I buy this product? The strategy. Here you are going to aim a very definite reason why a customer should buy your product. It's typically done after an emotional appeal to seal the deal and give your ad a double whammy. You're going to look at the demographics of your visitors, and you're going to try to put yourself in their shoes. What would be the defining reason to buy this product? There are a variety of reasons that can trigger different segments of the population to agree that to purchase your product makes sense. If you're dealing with people who are budget conscious, you can go after economic reasons. Another possibility is to focus on health as a reason. Maybe they're getting older and more health conscious. Maybe you're selling something to people who are sick. That can be a powerful reason to consider buying your product. Safety is also something on the top of most people's minds. This might work well for some people and not others. Safety means different things to different people. For mothers, child safety might be the reason you need to express to close the deal. For elderly people, it might be personal safety when they're home alone. Aside from very logical reasons like that, you don't have to just concentrate on those. Sometimes some of the best reasons are status, especially if you're selling in the luxury market. In that case, the reason you give might be you deserve it. Is there any logic to that? Not from an intellectual perspective, but from a reasoning standpoint, it makes perfect sense to a certain subset of people, particularly the affluent. Another reason that you can use is that it will enhance your personal or professional recognition. That can be a powerful reason for people who are dating to seek some sort of career advancement. Again, the reason you choose should fit the demographic of the people you are marketing to. The way this strategy works best is if you can get into the mindset of the people that you're marketing to and understand what type of objections they're likely to raise for themselves. If you're not sure what they are, you need to do a little market research with similar products that are selling online. Without understanding some of the potential objections that people might be thinking about when they view your sales page, you will not be able to successfully resolve them in a logical manner, and that's the key to this strategy. Once you determine the most typical objections, you will be able to think up the proper justifications to overcome them. By doing so, you will eliminate the last bit of resistance in your buyer's mind and close the sale. The psychology. Our Western culture prides itself on being one of reason and logic. We rely on our intellectual capabilities to justify almost every aspect of our very existence. Since we are young, we are told that civilized people use reason and not emotion to understand their world. While that remains a deep part of our conditioning, the truth is that we react emotionally first, and then we attempt to justify our emotions with our thinking minds. So when an emotion is felt to make a purchase, we question it. We have a certain suspicion about salesmen and slick marketing tactics. The emotion stirred up by the copy may be so strong that people are just waiting to find the reason to justify to themselves that, yes, indeed, this is a really good purchase. But without that reason, the sale is not finalized. That's because our conditioning steps in to warn us that anything that seems too good to be true usually is unless we rationally analyze our course of action. A good salesman anticipates that as the starting point of a sales negotiation, not the end. He or she understands that the person who begins to create objections in their mind is actually considering buying the product, but the mental conditioning and inherent distrust built up about deals may be causing them to hesitate. The way they are taught to hesitate is to analyze the situation with their minds. So those people that are raising objections are already half sold. Otherwise, they'd simply walk away and never engage in any thought process to defend themselves from potentially making a poor decision. It's your job as an online marketer to understand what objections are typically going to occur at this stage of the game and resolve them satisfactorily to reduce the resistance to your sale. The implementation. One can get very creative in manipulating this strategy because the mind has a way of creating excuses when it really wants something. Realize that the sale was probably already made on an emotional basis. All you are doing now is closing the sale by engaging the proper reason to assuage our cultural conditioning. So even though you can go after reasons that make sense and go along with the product, there are plenty of reasons that don't exactly have to tie into the product, but offer some benefit and can be used to walk the logic labyrinth. For instance, say you're leasing vehicles. Well, you can talk all day long about the wonderful qualities of the vehicles and how leasing is such a flexible option. But the final reason that may make the most sense from a business perspective may be the potential ability to write off the lease on the company's taxes. You may wonder, where did that come from? Well, if you understood the demographic that is buying your product most, you may discover that it is companies that are leasing vehicles so they don't have to buy their own and maintain them. Instead, they buy a lease and use them only when they are under warranty. Maybe they even have a specific brand that fits their needs best and are already sold on that one model. So then you know that other companies who are in competition may not understand how they save by leasing a vehicle instead of buying. So that can be a powerful logical argument to overcome objections from new customers who never thought about leasing before. In this scenario, the reason actually has very little to do with the product's features or quality. It had to do with a competitive edge and the ability to rationalize the purchase as a smart business expense. So that's how you can get extremely creative with this particular strategy. Don't just limit your reasons to things that tie into the product, but widen your net and cast it into the biggest possible incentive that makes sense for your demographic. However, if you find that you need to go with standard reasons, there are always reasons available tied to any product. For instance, if you sell clothing, you may want to iterate how practical it is, how it can be thrown in the washer, or even how classic it is that you can mix and match it with many different styles. Whatever you choose, it has to be something of interest to your demographic. If you're selling technology, you can focus on how it does a specific function better than other products, how it can improve your productivity, how it simplifies a particular task. These are all very logical reasons that appeal to that crowd. One thing to remember when implementing this strategy is that it is related to the price you set for your product. In other words, if you have a high-priced item, you will have to justify it more than a less expensive product. The only time that it may not be true is when you're marketing to an affluent demographic. Otherwise, you will always have to justify a more expensive product to someone, even if they are head over heels in love with it. Take, for instance, luxury cars. There's really nothing all that much different from the way one car operates over another. So they have to be sold on the features, and the reasoning they give is that even though it may be the same parts as another car, they are somehow better quality. It may be a car known for its smooth ride, or it may be known for its high safety record. Whatever the reason, it's really something that suggests the car outperforms other cars. After all, luxury cars are truly expensive. How would anyone be able to justify ever buying one based on the fact that they needed a car that took them from one place to another? Obviously, that strategy would not work. Instead, the logic has to include why it is so much better than other cars to justify the high cost. Despite that, it's almost certain that people who buy luxury cars are buying them based on the emotional impact, the feeling of specialness, the luxury of owning one. The way it associates them with a specific class of people is really what sells these cars. But if you were to ask anyone why they bought a luxury car, they would most likely opt to tell you it outperforms other cars because they have to justify the expense to you and to themselves too. The funny thing about the way to implement this strategy is that it can actually pay to put in technical reasons to sell the product, even if most people have no idea what most of the features are in technical language. Take a look at how personal computers are sold. They will tell you it had this much RAM, hard drive space, and all kinds of technical features that the majority of people don't understand. The higher the price, the more the technical features are listed in one long list. That's because there are reasons that people will justify buying a higher-priced computer versus a less expensive one, even if they haven't a clue what all those extra features are all about. They only know that they have a very smart computer, and likewise, they feel smart opting for a fully loaded personal computer, even if all they want to do is type up a few emails or letters every now and then. The timing. The time to implement this strategy is after you've made the emotional sales pitch, and the customer is wavering. It almost always comes at the end of a sales presentation, on the side of the box of the software, or as an asset for the PC advertisement. It's not the sole reason anyone is expected to agree to buying your product. It's simply put there at the end to remove the last vestiges of resistance to buying the product. So, for online marketing, it does go in your list of benefits if you have multiple reasons, but you should have one big reason at the end why this is the very best thing a person can do to resolve the problem that led them to your sales page. You can even put it in as an afterthought, as in, don't forget, this product does this, and you should take advantage of that. Chapter 5. Spur their passion for collecting. Everyone associates collecting with antiques and other niche markets. But the truth is that every market can use the dynamics of the desire to amass collections of things to spur sales. If you don't believe that, then you weren't around when the Beanie Babies craze hit the public. Who on earth would have believed grown adults would run around collecting little creatures made of stuffed bean bags? It became a national craze, and those little buggers weren't cheap. The moral of the story there is that if a manufacturer can create a collecting demand for a product that serves no useful purpose, had a unique and sometimes odd look about them, and you can't even eat or invest it, then how much more can you spur the passion for collecting for items that even have additional reasons to buy? Obviously, collecting isn't just for Beanie Babies or antiques. It's for everything and everyone. The strategy. So even if you're selling bumper stickers or watches, it doesn't matter. You can use this strategy to increase your sales. Don't believe that just because one person has bought one model, it doesn't mean that they may not be interested in other models. In fact, people who buy watches, for instance, will often buy several models and collect them for different occasions. Maybe they want a dress watch for when they are at classy occasions. Maybe they want a fun and flirty one for parties, and even more professional-looking one for the office. You can sell them all three. Isn't that a great way to boost your sales? So the things you want to do for this strategy is to target your existing customers. That's right. This is a strategy that is going to bring out the collecting bug in those people that have already shown an interest in your products. In order to get people to start collecting them, you need to start highlighting the collectible nature of your product. Why would someone want to collect them? Who else is collecting them? Can you display them on a shelf? Are they great to own various styles? What are the benefits of collecting your products? If you ever watch QVC, you will see the way they tout many of their items as collectibles. They will take a call, and the person on the other line will tell them how much they love the product that they've bought several different models. Then they start listing either the pride in owning such a great collection and how good it makes them feel, or they start listing all the reasons for why owning many makes sense. The psychology. You would think that the act of collecting is stimulated because of greed, but it isn't. Collecting falls into its own psychological niche, whereby the collector receives a great deal of pleasure and pride from owning many different models of a particular item. It's not because they're unconsciously trying to save up for poor economic times, as in greed, because even things that have no intrinsic function are collected and enjoyed by many people. So why do people collect things that may not even have any utility in their lives? If you've ever collected pennies as a youngster, you know that collecting gives you a sense of achievement. Every new penny you find and fit into its pouch gives you pleasure and a feeling of achievement. When the entire collection is done, you can also show that collection off to friends for them to admire your achievement as well. In some cases, the history or uniqueness of the collection can also be a source of great pleasure for collectors. That's why people sometimes collect salt shakers in various styles, not necessarily because they need more than one set of salt shakers in their home. Instead, the uniqueness and variety of the pieces bring out great pleasure in the collector, who becomes fascinated by each new variation they can add to their collection. The emotional investment in the collection grows as the collection grows. It becomes a bigger part of the collector's life and may even get a prominent position of display in the home. It becomes a large source of pride. And once that addition sets in, the collector may not be able to help themselves and may be purchasing new items that are far more expensive than when they first started, just to round out their collection. By that time, you almost don't even have to have a reason to sell a collector on a particular piece if the emotional impact of the piece screams out to them, "must have." And that's the type of enthusiasm and excitement you want associated with your products, because it will lead to residual sales that you can count on. The implementation. It's funny, but this strategy takes a little setup to implement. If you think about it, why did you get into collecting pennies when you were a kid? Would you have done it if they didn't sell those neat little sleeves with all the dates on each slot that you needed to collect to have the complete collection? So part of implementing this strategy is to simply offer a display case that people can use to track which items they still need to buy to complete their collection and to give a little history of the entire collection. You can even offer limited quantities of a specific product and increase the collectible status. That way, you can even start by charging more for that product because it is a limited edition. This is one way to manipulate the perceived value while not really changing the intrinsic value due to the collecting strategy. Always remember to place the bug in your customers' ears that this is a collectible item. You can send them a display case for free with the purchase of more than one item in the collection. You can highlight how other collections you've offered in the past have increased in value in the secondary market. This will give the idea to your customers that they're buying something that will increase in worth, and it becomes an investment. Remember that what you're trying to build is excitement about each new model by helping people keep track of what's out there and when a new one comes along. So giving each model its own unique identity will also stir up interest in collecting different models. This also helps people who may start to push the craze forward when they buy in volume to resell, particularly if you happen to hit a fad. Then you can expect your collectibles to fly off the shelf like Beanie Babies. It also doesn't matter if your product is old and outdated, if you're dealing with people who are collectors. If you remember the example of the old TRS-80 computers, many people now collect them as a vintage item. Sometimes even the fact that something is old adds to its collector's appeal, as it becomes harder to find in our throwaway culture. This is why antiques appreciate in value, even though they may not be intrinsically valuable. Old glass bottles or teddy bears are excellent collectibles just for this reason. Bottles break and teddy bears rarely survive childhood. Those that do then become one of the few vintage of examples of that time period, and they are sought after by collectors for just that very reason. Even things with utility can become collectibles with the right framework, due to the uniqueness of each individual item. For instance, when phone cards came out, they each had their own unique designs. After you used the minutes on the card, some people still liked the design, so they collected them. However, as with anything that is used and collectible, the new, still packaged, and unused item is worth more. That's why even if a person is buying something that has a utility, they may not necessarily even use it if they are collecting it. Think about what a boon it was for the phone companies to sell phone cards that had minutes that were never used. They sold a product with an intrinsic value in minutes that evaporated because people didn't want to ruin the value of the cards. Instead, they kept them in the package and sold them as a collectible design and memorabilia. But even things that you may not consider to be highly collectible can be collected by somebody. For instance, old tools may seem like they are beyond their appeal, but gardeners may love the idea of having some vintage tools for display in their gardens as a historic and novel motif. Once you know you have a person who collects one of your items, you know that you have a potential to get them to collect other types of items you sell. For instance, if you find a subset of your customers collecting your watches, maybe they'd also like to collect cufflinks. Or if you find a way to associate another collectible with the first, then you can start cross-selling those items. For instance, maybe you have someone who is collecting toy trains. Well, how many other toys do you have that are whimsical and cute enough to be collected? How about all those accessories that you can sell to toy train collectors? Don't they need little mini depots? How about different cabooses? How about books on the history of toy trains or the actual steam engines on which they are modeled? These can be sold as collectibles too. The nice thing about creating a collection of products and a line of accessories is that you literally have people lining up to buy those items before they're even being put up for sale. That's right. Think about the software games like Mario Brothers. Those cute little plumbers had all sorts of versions of that game being sold with different complexities to them. You mastered one and you had to get to the next one. That's how you establish a collection, by selling in series. You start with a few models and you have some way to collect and display each item in the series. Then every time you create a new item for your collection, you simply send out notification to all the people who have bought in the past from that collection. You don't have to go out and search out new customers. You don't have to constantly think up new products. Just modify an existing one with different models. And you can even charge more when you create some limited edition collectibles for discriminating collectors. The timing. This strategy takes a little planning to have a line of products that can be consistently promoted as the next must-have item in your customers' collections. Even though anything is collectible by somebody, obviously some market niches are more wide open than others. You may be able to find someone interested in collecting old drafting tools, but it's highly likely that there isn't a very big batch of people. So do a little research on each of your items before you decide to try to employ this strategy. It will take a little planning so that when you are promoting the products, you are promoting in the right series as a collectible from the start. You will find that some categories of products lend themselves well to this strategy and can increase your sales easily. Things like prints, stamps, coins, vintage items, historical items, and art can be considered to have a wide appeal as collectibles. So if you sell any of those, you want to begin to focus on developing a collection of products and even create displays that you can send to your customers to promote the collecting bug to take root. As such, this strategy should be implemented by you when you decide to market a particular class of products and should be thought of as a long-range strategy. It should be cross-sold on the back end of a sale anytime anybody makes a purchase from the collection, by suggesting other items within the collection in between the time they have decided to buy one and confirm the order. This can be just an extra page showing how the history of the collection is developed and other items people purchased with it, or it can be placed as an advertisement on the order form with a discount available for buying more than one in the collection. Chapter 6. Treat them oh so special. Everyone's heard of the posh restaurants that are so exclusive that you have to be somebody to get a reservation, and even then, it may be for a seat months away. Yet the very fact that a restaurant is so exclusive is the drawing card that keeps it booked and turning people away. They can then charge just about anything they want for their meals, and many are infamous for providing meals that would make Minnie Mouse think she was on a diet. It doesn't matter, though. What matters is how special you feel just showing up to the front desk and getting in. You know you're special, and they treat you very, very special, too. When you walk in, the restaurant has an ambience of luxury and opulence. When you sit down, there is fine linen on the table and multiple sets of dinnerware. You are served complimentary bread, still warm from the oven, with perfectly cooled butter pats in ceramic crocks. The menus are custom-made and elegant. The centerpiece is fresh flowers, artistically arranged for your pleasure. The people seated in the restaurant are all high class and well-dressed. You know that you are seated there because you are a part of that special class of people who managed to get a reservation. You're completely sold on the experience, and odds are you'll pay several $100s just to have dinner there. That's the power of exclusivity. Anything that is so hard to come by and creates an ambience that is oh so special automatically appreciates in the buyer's estimation. We talked a little bit about this in the previous chapter, but that was for mass-produced items that may be artificially manipulated into limited editions. Whereas a limited edition is a version of this strategy, this takes it one step further. You are going to make the scarcity or uniqueness of your item so obvious and the experience of ownership so special that people will fall all over themselves to be the ones to have that item in their possession. The strategy. Okay, say you have a product that is so luxurious or outright ostentatious that you think you might have trouble convincing people that it's something they need or want. Maybe the cost to market it is beyond all the other prices of the products in your existing inventory. How can you justify the purchase when it is so obviously out of kilter with what most people expect or even need in their lives? Well, you begin by informing your customers that you have this very special product. In fact, it's so special, it's not just limited, it's downright scarce. Maybe due to the fact that it is so special and hard to produce, only a certain number can be made or marketed at one time. After they're sold, you'll have to be put on a waiting list, and it may take years before you get a chance to even buy one again. Then you frame the benefits or features of this product by comparing it to the other products in your lineup to show exactly how special this thing is. Maybe it has a bigger engine, way out of proportion to anything you really need, but that's the beauty of something that is special. Maybe it is huge when compared to other products in the lineup. For instance, maybe you're selling a home with over 4,000 square feet, way more than you really need. That's what makes it special. Remember that it just can't be manufactured limited edition, even though that would be like a watered-down version of this strategy. It's more a genuine reason why this product is so special that only a few people are going to get the opportunity and pleasure of experiencing it for themselves. And this doesn't have to be just about the product itself. Maybe there is another reason that the product has become clearly special over time. It has increased in value way out of proportion to similar products because of some unique feature. For instance, maybe you're selling stamps with defects on them. They are special not because they outperform other stamps, but rather because they are highly unique in the stamp world and therefore worth more. The psychology. Going back to the restaurant example, this strategy holds a tremendous draw across all demographics because of the exclusivity factor. We all want to feel special and be recognized as special people. So even though going to an exclusive restaurant could never be justified for the budget conscious, it still will even attract people from this segment of the population. Why? Well, because the experience is so exclusive that it is seen as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And who is dumb enough to skip that sort of offer? You either take it when it comes up or you miss out on it, possibly for good. It's no contest. Most people will definitely try to scrounge up whatever resources they can just to be able to include that special event as a memory in their life. What's more, for items which have a physical nature to them, like exclusive editions of cars or art, you will see people use them as investments. They know that because something is rare, it will always be in demand. As the scarcity continues to drive up the price over time, the fact that they own one of the few remaining items means they might be able to sell it later for more money than they spent on it. Of course, that's not always the case, but many people can justify an exclusive edition of an item with this very logic. Implementation. Whereas some products are created to be exclusive, you can create an aura of exclusivity even for items that didn't start out that way. So if you happen to sell used books, you may find that you have several that are out of print. Instead of making books less valuable, the fact that it is now more exclusive gives you a way to market it so that it attracts more attention. You can talk about how it is now out of print and a very rare book. You can talk about how the paper it is printed on is indicative of its age or specialness or even the typeset. Of course, you have to educate your buyer so that they understand why you're selling the item as a special buy. The more detail you give out about what makes this product unique, the more you will start to convince the reader that it is indeed a unique buying opportunity. If you happen to know how many similar items exist in the world, then this is definitely information you need to relay to the reader to provide proof of exclusivity. For instance, say you are selling a stamp with a defect. You know that there was only so many of these stamps issued before the mistake was caught and corrected. Maybe you know how many people actually own a similar stamp. The thing is, you want to include some actual numbers to make it obvious why this is a very exclusive stamp and exactly how much it has appreciated over time. You can also include this strategy by targeting your collectors for the sale of the exclusive items as well as the limited editions. These are the people who are most motivated to make sure they have all the models that come out of a specific product. So even though it may be a little more than they're willing to spend, it might just complete their collection or make it ultra special. So send out the notice of your exclusive item to your die-hard collectors first to see if you get any bites. Finally, if you can point out an additional feature that brings your product exceptional value because it will never be created again, then you have a very exclusive item. Examples of this are books signed by dead authors. Obviously, you won't find new ones being created if the author is dead. That means that the signed copy is much more distinguished for its peer of unsigned copies because it also holds memorabilia in the form of a signature from a person of note. Remember to price your item accordingly. If you say only 6 copies exist or will be made, you shouldn't come up with a 7th. It destroys your reputation completely as a reputable dealer. It may seem like a great idea to create more because people are paying such exorbitant prices for the few you did sell, but the only reason they did so was because they were convinced it was completely unique and exclusive. If later new ones come off the production line, they are bound to get very angry with you and even potentially sue you for false advertising. To give the experience of having purchased something completely out of the ordinary, you want to make sure it comes in special packaging. Like a diamond ring comes in a velvet box, you want to make sure your exclusive offers come packaged in highly quality materials. Many times people who collect exclusive items won't even remove the packaging, and it is more valuable this way. So to give them the experience of having bought something special, also remember to include special packaging. One way to imprint the degree of specialness on the experience of owning something is to combine it with a certificate of authenticity. This is done with very exclusive prints that may only be sold in very small quantities. Even Franklin Mint will send certificates that come with the package to make sure that if the owner wants to resell the product, that they can prove it is truly a Franklin Mint special edition. The timing. The time to bring up the actual exclusivity of a product is actually before the sale. Although that's not the only time when you will impact the buyer with the fact that they've made a special purchase. You want to be sure to frame the offer to show exactly how special your item is, and give them as the reason why the buyer shouldn't delay on their decision to buy. If they hesitate, the opportunity will be lost, and they'll never have another chance to buy the same item again. The other time to make sure the buyer knows they've bought something special is after they've received the item. It should make them feel special when they get it. Otherwise, they will feel ripped off instead of recognized as the smart buyer they want to be. So always seek to add special packaging, quality materials, and even certificates of authenticity whenever possible. They should have the experience that this is truly a product that stands out as one of a kind and extremely valuable and rare. Chapter 7. Tell them it's urgent. If you let your sales prospect leave to think over your sales promotion, odds are you've lost the sale. The main reason for this is that you didn't include a sense of urgency in your offer, and if you did, the sales prospect might have still hesitated at the end. If you've already raised the objections and resolved them and done some emotional salesmanship, then why isn't your prospect ready to pull out their wallet now? You may not have relayed a sense of urgency crucial for them to make up their minds while you have them in your sight. Think of it this way. If you're trying to get immediate action or attention from a crowd of people, you might try saying, excuse me, into a nearby microphone. Odds are they will ignore you and go about their business. However, if you were to grab the microphone and yell, fire, you can bet you've instigated immediate attention and action. Similarly, you want your offers to light that fire under your sales prospects so they don't think they have time to ponder your offer. They must make up their minds right then and there. This dramatically increases the probability that you will close that sale. The strategy. There's basically two themes to this strategy. You are either trying to light a fire at the beginning of the sales presentation, or you are trying to overcome a final objection with a sense of urgency. In the first case, where you were trying to light a fire at the beginning of the presentation, the idea is to make your sales offer dramatic and instantly appealing. That doesn't mean that you have to focus on positive aspects, as fear can also be a powerful motivator to buy. But you do want to provoke a powerful emotional response that invokes the potential for a huge loss if the person doesn't take immediate action. No one likes to feel that they are losing something because they weren't bold enough to take action now. You also want them to become engaged in the buying experience so that they want to become the hero of their own drama and resolve that problem that's plagued them and driven them to your sales page. However, if you don't bolster their courage or show them that it is possible, then they might feel strange jumping up to grab your offer, even if emotionally they're ready to do so. So give them a little push. One of the best ways to create a sense of urgency is to give a time limit to the offer or make it a special introductory offer. The time-limited offers will work for new and existing customers, whereas the introductory offer is great for people who are new to your site and may need a push to commit to the first sale. Either way, the way this strategy would work is that you're creating an expectation of loss if that person doesn't take you up on the offer at that moment. In the case of an introductory offer, it may be one time available to people who subscribe to your mailing list. If they don't take you up on it, then later the same offer will be priced much higher. In the case of the limited offers, the loss expressed may be that you won't be able to even offer the same package at a later date. Once it's sold out, it's gone. Or once the time limit is reached, you'll no longer offer that package again at that price. Here, the loss is expressed as either a price or an opportunity to own a particular product package. So the sense of urgency is increased dramatically when there is a potential for loss either in monetary or opportunity. In the second case, you have just sold Mrs. Smith on a great new dishwasher when she says she wants to go home and think about it or discuss it with her husband. If you let Mrs. Smith walk out and do not resolve that objection with a sense of urgency, you've lost the sale. The second case is much trickier to implement, and we will go over it more in depth in the implementation section of this chapter. However, you will want to make sure that you direct a sense of urgency and a personal sense of loss to the potential buyer considering buying your product. Otherwise, once you make it personal, they won't need anyone else's opinion to decide whether the purchase is a good idea or not. Empower them to make their own buying decisions. The psychology. The species as a whole is programmed to avoid loss and danger. Otherwise, we'd have had a tough time staying alive. So subconsciously, we are constantly monitoring our environment for cues that might suggest that we could be in danger or that we will be experiencing a dramatic loss, and to flee or evade the problem as quickly as possible. And in fact, our nervous system is fine-tuned to make us react much more quickly at signs of danger or loss. You hear the stories of the mothers who have lifted whole cars off their babies who got caught underneath in superhuman efforts of strength and courage. Why? The idea of the loss of their child was so unbearable that their nervous system kicked in to give them the boost they needed to overcome that problem. It made them act in bolder ways to take action immediately. While losing money or an opportunity can't be compared with the potential of losing a child, the same dynamics are at play. It creates a sense of urgency if there is a possible loss of money or opportunity. The greater the potential loss, the more the nervous system kicks in to take immediate action. That's why most financial experts warn that people are risk-averse and shouldn't watch the stock market. If they do and see their investments drop substantially, they pull their money out instead of waiting for the market to correct. That's because the loss triggered a subconscious risk that caused them to take immediate and usually a highly emotional action rather than to think the other options out. This works for sales because it can give your prospect time to think about the other options. Odds are they'll either think up more objections to your products or decide to buy someone else's product. It may not even be a better product, just better marketed. If they aren't given a reason in every single presentation why they shouldn't walk away and think about it, this can be the most damaging of objections to your sales effort, because once you are out of sight, it's guaranteed you are out of mind. All that effort for nothing. The implementation. Your sales copy will have to invoke a sense of urgency, since you do not have the prospect in front of you as in a retail store situation. You can do this as boldly or as subtly as you like. You can simply call some offers introductory and not say anything about whether the price will change or not. However, just that word implies something will change down the line. Or you can very clearly state that this is a one-time or time-limited offer as a more direct way of creating urgency. However, there are even more creative ways you can invoke a sense of loss that have nothing to do with time. That's what makes them so effective. You aren't necessarily rushing anyone, but the implication is that if they don't rush themselves, they will experience a loss that may be unrecoverable. An example of this would be if you have a product that is giving companies who buy it a competitive edge. So you can explain how everyone uses it and why it increases productivity and provides that competitive edge. Then you can suggest all of the major players who have bought your product and how the sales prospects shouldn't delay, so as to remain competitive in their business. Well, there is not an actual time frame that you've mentioned or a time limit on your offer, but you very effectively lit a fire under most business owners' butts due to the potential for loss of business to other well-equipped establishments. Another way to invoke a sense of urgency is when it's a matter of style or status. When is the best time to get something novel that really sets you above your peers? When the product first comes out. If it is predicted to be a hot seller, then you have to get one before it sells out. This marketing strategy can even help with pre-sales, so that you can reserve orders before the product is even out. If people think the demand will be huge, you can even sell the reservation by asking them to put money down to hold their order and guarantee delivery by a certain date. This type of logic is also used when marketers say, "Be the first to own this fully loaded cell phone," or whatever the product may be. They are hoping to increase your sense of urgency by getting people to jostle for being the first in line to buy their product. After all, once everyone has one, then it's not such a big deal anymore and the urgency is lost. Framing your offer in a way that creates some impulse to take the action to buy when the copy is read is very important to online sales. If you don't get that urgency across, people will drift off to some other site or activity and may even forget where they last saw that offer. In retail sales, one of the worst objections one can hear is the person who insists that before they can buy something, they have to check with their spouse. Why? Well, it puts the marketer in the difficult position of being completely unable to create that sense of urgency to make the purchase while they are standing there. In those situations, if the marketer doesn't act fast, they will lose the sale for sure. So that's when they have to get a bit personal. They have to be a little bold too. They might even dare to ask the person if their husband or wife makes all their buying decisions for them. They may want to know if the husband or wife checks with them in all of their major purchases too. Or they might want to know if it's really necessary to get approval for a purchase that may have nothing to do with the spouse. Now you would think that getting nosy and personal is going to have a poor reaction. It might, but you know already that if you let that person leave your store with that objection, you've lost the sale for sure. So what do you have to lose? Online, the same strategy isn't as important since you aren't face-to-face with a person, but even so, you want to make sure that the visitor understands why it is personally important for them to make that purchase now, without checking in with others. This is easy to do if the products are gender-based, like women's toiletries or men's ties. You make sure your customer is aware that women with taste or men with sense know that it is a great deal that they shouldn't pass up. The timing. This is one strategy that should always be attempted in conjunction with other strategies. It certainly can't hurt to try and light a fire under your sales prospect's rear end to get them to buy. Chapter 8. Gain trust with your credentials. Now, if you make an offer, no matter how incredibly good it may be, you won't attract sales if no one believes you can deliver what you offered. That's because people need to trust you before they will make a purchase from you. And if the purchase is something that appears too good to be true and they don't know you, they simply won't believe you're telling the truth. Like any relationship, you have to build trust over time by delivering what you promise. So what can you do for those that have yet to buy and haven't even entered into a commercial relationship with you? Well, you can flash your credentials. Have you ever noticed that when people find out you're a doctor, they automatically assume you're smarter and richer than the average person? That's because your profession gives you credentials to be a person of integrity and a productive member of society. Education is one way that people flash credentials, by putting the initials to their degrees next to their names. There are certain ways to establish your credentials with your website audience that can be used to get them to trust you more and thus help you make the sale. The nature of this strategy is to create a tone of authenticity and authority. You want to sound believable, educated, maybe even an expert about a particular topic related to your market niche. When people find someone who they can trust to tell them the truth exactly like it is, then they are more easily influenced into following the advice that person gives. You will want to invoke associations that enhance your image as a knowledgeable and credible person, and reduce the associations to those things that may impinge on your good name. Both of these aspects are looked at quite closely when a customer is trying to make a decision whether you're steering them in the right direction or just trying to make a fast buck. You will have to pay attention to the language that you use in your sales copy. It shouldn't contain any outrageous claims or even untruthful exaggerations. You want to highlight the benefits of your product or service, but in a manner that comes off as genuine, not hyped. There are a number of different ways to implement this strategy to help you build your credibility quickly and effectively. However, the strategy is still the same. You want to remove the objections in your customer's mind to the possibility that they are being taken for a ride or influenced in underhanded ways. You do this by seeking to make sure your transactions always have a high degree of integrity from sale to delivery, and that you back everything with your good name. The psychology. This strategy works because we are conditioned to trust those people who have certain authority over us. As children, our parents are invested with that authority, and we're taught to believe everything they say, and more importantly, that they have our good interest at heart. That is where we first learn to trust in an authority figure. Later, we learn that this same dynamic extends to our bosses, our spouses, and even to people with education or some measure of success in their lives. We assume that if someone has made it to a certain level in society, that their word tends to carry weight because they are more experienced and know how to ride the rapids of life. So we may be automatically triggered to respect an authority figure, but that doesn't necessarily mean we automatically trust them. Unless you are codependent, most people will make other people earn their trust in order to engage in a healthy relationship. No one wants to be used or abused by people in authority, just because they claim to know better for us. In those instances, we may be triggered, but we can also completely rebel against the idea and dig in our heels and refuse to comply with the direction given. And that's a perfectly healthy reaction to protect the person from being taken advantage of. Similarly, online salespeople may expound on their credentials all day long and even impress their visitors, but they still have to put their money where their mouth is and act with integrity to gain their trust. If someone hasn't directly interacted with you, then they may decide to ask someone else whether you deliver what you promise. That's called a referral and is another way credibility is built. So even though you have no direct history with someone, it doesn't mean you can't create the atmosphere necessary to get people to trust you enough to buy from you. You can do that by paying close attention to the image you project online. You have to make sure that it is as authentic to the products and services that you promote. That means that if you sell sports gear and you've never even picked up a tennis racket in your life or played a team sport, you will be completely lacking in credibility unless you get other noted sports figures to become your spokesperson. Then your business has more credibility even though you personally may have none in that particular niche market. So, authenticity is the name of the game in Web 2.0 online businesses. You will see this becoming more and more important as social networking takes over the internet. When people social network, they talk to each other based on friendships they've developed with people they trust. So when they go out to buy something, they often know at least someone online who can give them a good idea of whether your claims are credible and your business trustworthy. If you scam people, odds are in this internet age, your online businesses will not last long. People tend to notify and warn people in their circle of friends quite quickly in social networking sites and can directly impact your bottom line. The implementation. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that the copy on your site is truthful. No claims that cannot be supported. If you say free delivery, then keep to your word and don't sneak in a shipping and handling fee. Next, you will want to keep away from marketing cliches that give people the impression of the snake oil vendors of the past. It's one thing to make a claim that may seem unbelievable, but can be backed by hard facts, and quite another to just splatter outrageous claims all over your website without trying to justify them. This brings us to the next thing you need to do to implement this strategy. That is, you need to handle the customer's objections that might be in their mind as efficiently and accurately as possible. If one of the objections is that the price is too high, then don't try to hide that fact, but justify why it is high in a credible way. If the sales prospect may still have problems believing the claims, which are indeed true, then you need to trot out the authority figures, whether you or someone else. Take, for instance, a product that is a medical device of some sort and it claims to get rid of acne or some such thing. Then you will want to be able to back that claim with either a doctor's credentials or clinical trials. Use the types of credentials that our society agrees gives one authority, degrees, awards, and even personal success. If it is an info product that shows how you make money on the internet, you had better be able to pull out whatever evidence to show that you were indeed highly successful using those methods, whether it is bank statements or your annual statement from PayPal. You can build up an image of an expert on the internet very quickly. That's because content is so important to drive search engine results. If you know that your market niche is being heavily searched by surfers, you can start to write multiple articles and submit them to article directories to create a bigger name for yourself online. Many of these article directories allow you a resource box that you can put your website address in to bring in traffic from these sites. This serves a twofold purpose. You become an instant expert on the internet, and you drive more traffic to your site. It's a great way to build credibility. If you still have trouble building some credibility, then think about writing free guest posts for sites that already have a big audience and a high degree of credibility. By doing so, you gain traffic and polish up your online image by associating with noted experts or successful online marketers or bloggers. In this way, they lend you some of their credibility for contributing to their site. You can also do mini versions of this by simply commenting on open blogs with pithy and informational comments that make you look good. Don't forget to add links to your site to generate more traffic too. If you don't have time for all that, you can simply pay someone to endorse your products, as mentioned earlier. You can do this by using celebrity endorsements, or simply getting someone in the business with great credibility to write a review of your site or products. Once they give their endorsement, their credibility rubs off on you virtually overnight. A limited version of this is to pay people to let you advertise on their sites with a link back to your site. They aren't necessarily endorsing you, but the association with their site will reap a very similar effect, just watered down somewhat. Certain geographical regions might lend more credibility to a product than others. For instance, remember when Made in Japan made it junk? Well, when cars started rolling off the Asian assembly lines, the fact that they were imported from Japan finally gave them more credibility, not less. But it took time for that impression of trustworthiness to seep into the cultural consciousness. Also, you know that certain places are known for having excellent products, like wine from France and cheese from Wisconsin. If you are selling items that gain credibility from their place of origin, be sure to mention it. Even your company can gain credibility at times from its place of business, just like the best publishing houses are all known to reside in New York City. One thing to remember is that if you are the expert on your products, that you know what makes them so special and such a good deal. All you have to do is be able to convey that to your customers in a genuine and friendly fashion for them to start believing it too. And when the sale is made, don't stop there. Be sure that you pay the same attention to the integrity of the entire sales process so that your customers will know that your word means something and they can expect to get exactly what you promised, or you will make good on it. That type of customer service will have them coming back over and over and referring all their friends to you too. The timing. You will need to work a little to get this strategy going. It should be planned for even before you have a website up and running and selling products. You should start building your professional image immediately online through social networking sites, building an expert blog, and writing articles if you expect to use your own image to sell your products. Obviously, your credentials can be added to with every achievement in your life. Be sure to add multiple online profiles that talk about your achievements, all with links back to websites when it goes up. Always continue to update your credentials every time you receive some new recognition, award, degree, or have a very successful campaign. The name of the game is to toot your own horn. You should also have an About Me section in all your websites to make sure people know you are trustworthy. Include that information in the copy too if you're using this strategy to invoke authority and credibility to sell your products. It should be easy to find this information almost immediately if that's the impact you want to make. This is a never-ending process once you start, as your image is what is being used to sell your products. You will want to protect it. You need to constantly monitor your affiliates, your customer service representatives, and your own claims to make sure they are truthful and trustworthy people. Associate with the wrong crowd for too long and the reputation can shift, just like the tailwinds of a hurricane. So keep at it, and you can reap a sterling reputation that helps sell your products simply through the virtue of honesty and integrity. Chapter 9. Make it cozy and familiar. As we indicated in the chapter above, you can often sell things through the associations you make with it. In this chapter, we're going to discuss how linking your product to things that are familiar to your customers can help to breed a cozy familiarity that is appealing. For products that are new, it can even be a way to overcome the resistance to buying if you link the product with something they already know. One of the easiest ways to do this type of association is to link your products to some cultural phenomena or fad that is currently in the forefront of the mass consciousness. Once it is associated with some fad, by default, your product also gains tremendous popularity along with the fad. However, you do have to be careful that when a trend ends, that your sales don't dwindle too. The positive aspects of linking to a popular subject are obvious, but the negative aspects can sometimes be ignored and impact your sales. So remain aware that you always have to understand that linking your product to other cultural trends works both ways. The strategy. You will want to identify what trends are foremost in the mind of your visitors. They could be cultural, ethnic, behavioral, or simply a shift in the public's awareness. As an example, if you're selling kids' toys and there's a popular television series that has enormous popularity, if you link your product to this series, you will experience good growth to your sales. Your product doesn't even have to be directly related to the event that you're exploiting for it to work, as long as it draws attention, even controversy, to your sales ad. Online controversy is a sure way to gain attention, even if it can be explosive. If you understand how to manipulate a controversy to your advantage, you can even use these controversies to sell your products. At the very least, you will increase your site's traffic. Sometimes an event is a good thing to link your products to, like a historical event. This is actually done around major holidays, when all sorts of Christmas-themed wares and/or gifts show up in the stores. But beyond the holidays, there are events that can influence your visitors to buy your products. Earth Day for greenies, for example. Highly controversial or anticipated events can be great product promoters. The American national elections, for instance, is a giant boon for people who sell items with logos. Now they can sell t-shirts, bumper stickers, and all sorts of different types of products by linking them to either the Republican or the Democratic candidates. As different controversies erupt over the candidates, it can be a gold mine for people who want to show their party loyalties through the products they buy. But this strategy isn't just relegated to fads and controversies. It's also about making new products or unusual products more familiar and cozy. An example of this is an ad that was printed in the past selling smoke detectors that look intimidatingly high-tech, which compared it to a very sensitive nose. Suddenly, the smoke detector wasn't so odd and frightening, but rather familiar to the average human being. In the process, the smoke alarm is reframed to something that a person can rely on every day to keep them out of danger without being too concerned about the mechanics of it. The psychology. By associating products with things that already are prominently within the conscious mind of your buyers, it captures more attention from your market. Our minds are constantly filtering out vast amounts of input from many different sources: the media, our friends and relatives, even the internet. We have learned to multitask quite well, but at the same time, we don't quite pay full attention to everything that comes across our visual screen. So in order to really grab our attention, something has to trigger either a deep familiarity to bypass the filters that throw out garbage inputs, or it has to stir such a controversy that it produces an emotional impact that also bursts through your thinking filters. Human beings are also creatures of habit. They go to sleep on the same side of the bed every night and wake up and brush their teeth in the morning without fail. This type of routine is comforting to people and helps people to manage their lives, their emotions, and their thoughts. Once you've got an established lifestyle that makes you comfortable, you're pretty set in your ways and typically don't want to mess up a good thing. So why would you switch from your morning cup of coffee to some other beverage? Why would you opt to eat a new toaster croissant when your old bagels are just as yummy and you've been eating them for years? The fact is that people won't jump to try new things without first deciding whether they even understand why they'd want to in the first place. The familiarity of the old things are comforting, and it takes a lot of momentum to change to something new. That's why linking new products to old things that are familiar works to sell them better. You're not really selling a new strange animal that no one has ever used before. You're selling an improved version of the same old classic and dependable item they've come to know and love. You aren't just asking them to believe that this new thing will make their lives better. They already know it has, and now they can even improve that experience up a notch too. This makes new things that may be difficult to sell because of their strange new offering a much more appealing prospect. Linking also works on the memory, as this is exactly how people recall things in their long-term memory, by linking them to other memories that are more easily recalled. So even if you don't sell the prospect immediately, your sales ad makes an emotional impact on the psyche that is stored much longer in the memory of the reader and more easily recalled later. Finally, associating your products with dramatic events or culturally recognized phenomena also lends your products an air of controversy. For those that harbor the inner rebel, they will jump on your bandwagon just so to be included as part of that anti-culture movement. So even for those that think they are evading the propensity of human beings to stick with what they know, this strategy can work by linking the product to the thing they know and dislike, and then providing it as a part of the anti-culture solution. The implementation. There are various ways to implement this strategy. For a new product that has unbelievable claims because it is so novel, you'll want to link it to something familiar and comforting. These types of items shouldn't be linked with controversy because they're controversial enough. For existing products that you want just to build a campaign employing this strategy, you can brainstorm all of the current events, cultural phenomena, news items, and fads that might be able to be used to sell this product. If you're trying to sell a product with a new feature, you can link it to the old product or something familiar to help them accept the new feature. A more subtle way to associate something that's familiar with a positive framework is to use common items that are held in high esteem to get the message across that this is something worthwhile to possess. For example, the words diamond, gold, and platinum are used in a variety of products and even memberships to link those qualities associated with these items to other products and services. Ever hear of platinum spark plugs? They go for about $60 each. That's what the power of a little clever linking can do for you. It can not only make something seem more familiar, but it also gets some of the same aura of qualities of the items you've associated with. So in a sense, you're manipulating the potential buyer's perception of quality by associating it with familiar but luxurious elements in nature. If you can use some of the terms that are being used in the fad to help link your item to the more popular item, it will be easily associated and understood to be linking to it. Like when Star Wars was big, anything that used the same sort of classic sayings of this blockbuster film was instantly recognized. Yoda's sayings in particular were an excellent way to tie in popular culture and still be able to use them in your marketing efforts. Spoofs and takeoffs from the saying, "The Force is with you," were humorous and eye-catching. The way this strategy can really take off is if you link to something that is in the current news media. If there's a controversy over some news piece, like when women burned their bras, then link your product or service to that particular controversy to get some instant media attention. You don't even have to be for or against the controversy or in women's lingerie. When women burned their bras, there were even pizza places baking pizzas shaped like bras in order to garner attention, and it worked. So while you want to associate with different cultural phenomena, even controversy, it doesn't have to be all that serious. You don't have to take sides, and often it's better if you don't. If you take one side, you lose the other side as a potential customer. So the best way to implement this is to make a social statement without offending people while you're at it. The timing. This strategy is reserved for when you're making the pitch for your product or service. You can't really link two things together if one of the items, your product, remains an unknown. So there is a bit of tightrope you are walking here. You want to associate with some powerful symbol in the mass media, but you don't necessarily want it to overwhelm your sales pitch. Remember that the reason you're using the strategy is to sell your product or service, not to promote some cause or movie. So this strategy works well as press releases and other mass media items that draw attention, but also talk about your own product too. You can continue to use the same strategy on your sales page, but also list all the benefits of your product and use the strategy to introduce your product first. That way, people who found out about your product from searching for terms related to the mass symbol will be able to quickly shift from that thing to your own products and services with a great deal of familiarity and comfort. If done correctly, this strategy is a smooth way to lead huge amounts of traffic from other sites to your sales page. Chapter 10. Connect them with their people. Innate in the human culture is the desire to belong. Whether we want to belong to our families, our heritage, our country, or some other group, the desire is very strong and appealing. And in sales, when you create an image of a particular brand, the people who end up buying that comprise a status group of peers with like-minded values. This can be very attractive to people who seek always to establish a connection that affirms their own identities. In social networking, the number one reason people are engaged on these sites is their desire to express their identity. Part of that is joining groups of like-minded souls, frequenting places that these people go, and even buying the same things these people buy. So even though the action may be instigated by their own identity, the final strong desire is a need to belong. The strategy. If you understand this basic need to belong, and you know what products your visitors are buying, you can easily provide the solution for that need by highlighting all qualities that take into account that particular group's identity. In addition, once you understand which demographic your potential buyer belongs to, you also know by association which other products and services would appeal to them. So you can increase your sales just with this one insight and by facilitating the ability for people to identify with their preferred groups. And once you have a large grouping of people or products with brands that reflect a certain set of people's values or aspirations, then this will draw even more people to the offer who are completely invested in belonging to that particular group. So you do need to do research on the demographics of your visitors. If you're already in business, you will have a good idea what sorts of values and services they are buying into. This will give you an idea of the type of grouping that might be the people they wish to identify with. Of course, just because one belongs to a particular group because of personal demographics, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is the group they want to be associated with when buying. It just gives you a starting point. For instance, in the 2008 United States elections, the Democratic Party was always associated with equal opportunity. They had several candidates running for the party's nomination, from a black man to a woman. The Republicans were seen as less for equal opportunity until they put a woman on the ticket for their vice presidential candidate. If this were a sale and the product is the presidency, what they are doing is trying to get swing voters, independents, and Democrats to identify more with their party through adding a female as a statement on equal opportunity. They know that the demographic of swing voters are mostly white, older women who are not happy with Hillary Clinton not being on the Democratic ticket. So even though that's the demographic, they included a young white woman to the description of the ticket to stir up excitement for the Republican ticket, not just from older white women, but from younger voters too. Similarly, luxury products may be primarily aimed at wealthy buyers, but there is a whole class of people who would like to be associated with the affluent, whether they have the budget for it or not. So the starting point is the demographic of people who are considered affluent, since they need to be connected to their status group. However, in advertising and marketing, you also have to make it easier for those that want to identify with the group but lack a key demographic trait to make the switch to. You can do this by branding a line of products with the potential to increase your association as your circumstances change, or by clearly defining the values and qualities of that product with the people who buy it. Then you can continue to cultivate that connection by offering other products and services that those people associate with the grouping of people that they desire to be a part of. The psychology. There is a number of reasons this strategy is so effective. The most obvious is the natural desire to be accepted as part of a group to increase your chances of prospering, both socially and financially. When times are really tough, that's when people gather together into like-minded groups for the sake of survival. That's what the basic family unit is all about, and that dynamic lasts until the day we've taken our last breath. A person without friends is a person who more than likely feels worthless, and a person with many friends who affirm their identity is a very blessed person indeed. There are even scientific studies that show that our ability to heal and the joy we have in our lives is directly related to how many social interactions we maintain. People with a wide circle of friends, connections from church, family, and even professional organizations, can withstand the low periods in life much better than those without this type of emotional support in their lives. So when someone feels that they are identified with a particular group and are accepted within it, it builds their confidence, their self-esteem, and increases their joy in life. Some medical studies even suggest it boosts their immune systems. All of these things are felt emotionally as a very huge degree of satisfaction, and it's that feeling that is what pulls in prospects when you use this strategy. It makes them feel affirmed, connected, confident, and worthy to be included in the group of buyers who can achieve to own that particular thing you've associated with a status group. Then there is the interesting dynamic of camouflage that exists in nature and human species. When you don't have what it takes to actually belong to a particular group, like a chameleon that wants to be part of a particular environment but is really just a lizard, then the next best thing is to fake it, to fool people into believing you actually are a twig, a leaf, or a high-status achiever. Even if you don't really belong to that group, the fact that you are identified with it confers on you the same privileges and status, and sometimes connections, that the others who do truly belong there get. That can heftily increase the probability of enhancing and later confirming an image of success. The implementation. The key to implementing this strategy in a way that wows your customers is to treat them as if they already belong to the group they desire to be a part of. If they aren't particularly wealthy, but they are looking to buy a luxury car from you, then being treated as such will help to build the desire to make the purchase from you and really belong to the group. Another way to do this is that when someone buys a brand that is associated with a particular group, like greenies who like conservation and saving the rainforest, then you have a very good idea of what else they would like. You should suggest those items to them, and in fact, you can do it even before the sale is finalized. You suggest products that complement the sale, or you can even show how some of the other products you sell always go towards saving the rainforest. You can even upgrade to ask them to be more ecologically conscious. Let's face it, we tend to like to join cliques of people who can agree with most of our values, even if we don't really have the credentials to belong. Like a person who goes in to buy a luxury car without enough money to finance the purchase. They don't even want to be called out for being somewhere they don't belong. Instead, they want to be accepted for the part so much that they will sometimes even make the sale to prove they belong and can work the part. You can implement this strategy when you decide to create lists of people to market specific products or brands online. You can have different mailings go to different groupings, each one stating how the new products or services you are offering help them to identify more with their status group. A very powerful technique to then implement is peer pressure. Suggest that other people who bought a particular item also found that they desired other items. You can even purchase marketing lists from people if you want to include direct marketing in your campaigns that help you to target specific groups and cross-reference them with other lists of groupings too. One can't really leave this chapter without mentioning how social networking has become the cornerstone of this strategy online. Social networking sites like Facebook and MySpace are set up to neatly get people joining into circles of friends with similar interests. As you start establishing profiles on these sites, you begin to notice that some friends all use the same applications or enjoy putting similar items on their profiles. This gives you great insight into the types of items that they might purchase if given the chance. While you can't solicit people on social networking sites effectively, you can create links on your profile to offers that are targeted to help these people find a product or service that is branded for their interests. You can also set up different groups, and there you can solicit and market people more than on individual profiles. Social ads in Facebook are a very finely tuned way to market specific demographics of people and connect them with the offers that help them to identify with their people. If you can offer your customers something that allows them to flaunt their peer status, this can also help you finalize the offer. This is how education, such as degrees and certificates, are sold. People want to connect with other people who have similar interests and learn and grow more through them. But when it comes time to use it, they want that sheepskin so they can tell everyone that they are an accomplished member of a specific and special group, and that they now have the credentials to prove it. So if you're selling items like workshops or online courses, it helps to give out certificates of accomplishment that people can display to others. Online, you can even make up virtual badges and awards that people can post on their electronic profiles or web pages that show they have become a member of a prestigious group, even if the only qualification is to simply buy a product from you. Then you can amp that marketing strategy even more by providing a link back to your products, services, or websites from the virtual award or badge. This generates more traffic for you and more chances to sell based on this strategy, since it will attract just the sort of people that this appeals to. The timing. Since this strategy works through the power of image, you can use it practically anywhere in the sales cycle. You can sell pre-sales by the use of badges or sending specific notices to potential demographics and telling them the reason they were singled out is because they belong to your list. Maybe you were looking for engineers, nurses, or greenies. It doesn't matter. They'll be flattered to be recognized for being part of that particular social identity and will give your offer serious thought. You can use it on the sales page in your list of benefits. You can use it as an introductory offer to specific people who meet certain criteria. You can offer it as part of the incentive to join your special forums and groups, to meet up with like-minded folks. Then you can market those groups quite easily for specific products and services that enhance that image. You can set up profiles on social networking sites and create articles that highlight your own association with a particular group, making you an expert within the group. Once you create a circle of friends who are totally in line with that social peer group, you can start to bridge them to your website or to an intermediary blog where you can actually market them. Finally, don't forget that you can add suggestions in emails, on the order form, and even the thank you page after an order is filled out. This strategy is so powerful that the more you use it, the more buyers actually like it. They never get tired of it because it affirms their personal identities. So unlike other strategies that need specific timing and locations, this one is one that can be used anywhere and anytime with astounding results.